There's a specific moment in these towns when the sun goes down and everything changes. Store owners lock up early, residents move their cars off the street, and people who've lived here their whole lives will tell you, flat out, don't be outside after dark. We're not talking about sketchy pockets of big cities. We're talking about towns with brick street downtowns, historic courthouses, places that show up on hidden gems of Florida lists right next to towns where the murder rate runs 10 times the national average. One of these places has produced more NFL players per capita than almost anywhere in America, and that same zip code has one of the highest felony conviction rates among young men in the entire state. Another sits close enough to Palm Beach's yacht clubs that you can see them from the wrong side of the water, and residents there measure their safety by which side of a bridge they live on. And the very last town on this list, millions of people drive through it every year without knowing they just entered the most dangerous city limits in Florida. Stick around for that one. If you like content that doesn't sugarcoat reality, hit subscribe, because this channel's entire job is showing you the Florida the Tourism Board leaves out of the brochure. Number 14, Bartow, Polk County's seat. Built around a 1908 courthouse with oak trees and southern charm on every block. Looks staged for a postcard. But Bartow's violent crime rate sits at 423 incidents per 100,000 residents, above both the Florida and national averages, and it climbed 28% in a single recent year. Property crime isn't much better, with roughly a 1 in 59 chance of becoming a victim. Locals say the historic core empties out fast once the sun sets, and the streets east of downtown are where police calls spike after dark. A courthouse square built for community pride, surrounded by numbers telling a different story entirely. Number 13, Quincy. This Gadsden County town once called itself the wealthiest small town in America, after residents bought Coca-Cola stock early in the 20th century. It's got more surviving antebellum homes than almost anywhere else in Florida. But today, over 92% of Florida communities have a lower crime rate than Quincy. Residents face roughly a 1 in 34 chance of becoming a crime victim, with violent crime alone putting the odds at 1 in 198. The northeast side logs the most incidents by far. Southwest Quincy is considered the safe side of town, which tells you how differently the same zip code can feel once the streetlights come on. Number 12, Immokalee. Out in Collier County's farmland, this town puts tomatoes on tables across the country, and for decades it was also ground zero for modern-day slavery prosecutions, with federal investigators uncovering forced labor operations hidden inside the fields. Today, residents face roughly a 1 in 98 chance of becoming a crime victim, with violent crime alone landing around 1 in 390. Immokalee has made real progress. Farm worker advocacy groups built one of the country's most effective labor monitoring programs right here. But agricultural workers will still tell you, keep your head down once the trucks stop rolling in from the fields at night. Number 11, Miami Gardens. This is the city that hosts Hard Rock Stadium, the Dolphins, and Super Bowls. It's also the Florida city that logged the highest violent crime rate of any municipality reporting to the FBI in 2024. Residents face about a 1 in 254 chance of being a victim of violent crime and 1 in 43 for property crime. The stadium lights bring in hundreds of thousands of visitors a year who never leave the parking lot footprint. A few blocks away, in neighborhoods the broadcast cameras never pan to, residents know exactly which streets to avoid once the game traffic clears and the sun goes down. Number 10, Lake Worth Beach. Cross the causeway from here and you're in Palm Beach, mansions and all. Stay on this side and the violent crime rate runs around 731 per 100,000 residents, roughly a 1 in 147 chance of becoming a victim. The good news, crime dropped 22% in a recent year. The bad news, cross from the south side to the north side of town, and your risk changes block by block. Lake Worth Beach has real charm, an arts district, a fishing pier, but ask anyone who's lived here 20 years and they'll tell you exactly which streets go quiet, then dangerous, the moment the sun drops. If you think this list is heavy so far, we're only a third of the way through. Coming up, a town that produces NFL players and felony convictions at almost the same rate, and a fairy tale city where the FBI once raided its own city hall. Hit like if you want more of these. Number 9, Cocoa. Not Cocoa Beach, two very different places, and mixing them up could ruin your evening. Cocoa sits inland from the rocket launches and tourist beaches, and its violent crime rate runs close to 3 times the national average. Southeast and downtown Cocoa carry nearly all of it, roughly a 1 in 33 chance of victimization there, compared to 1 in 110 a few miles northwest. The waterfront village of boutiques and restaurants looks nothing like the streets 2 blocks over. When SpaceX lights up the sky from Cape Canaveral, the world watches. Nobody's watching Cocoa once the rocket smoke clears and the tourists drive home. Number 8. Pine Hills. 10 minutes from Universal Studios, this Orange County community has spent nearly 2 decades fighting a nickname locals despise: Crime Hills. A 2023 shooting that killed a journalist covering a previous shooting, along with a child inside her own home, put the community back in national headlines. Residents along Powers Drive and Silver Star Road will all tell you the same thing: know your streets and be inside before dark. Families checking into hotels near the theme parks have no idea how close they really are. Number 7. Palatka. A brick street river town with a blue crab festival and a name that literally means cow crossing. It also posts a total crime rate 89% above the national average, bottom 8th percentile for safety nationwide. Larceny alone runs more than double the national rate, with combined victimization odds around 1 in 25. Putnam County has been one of Florida's poorest counties for decades, and Palatka absorbs the weight of it. The murals are real, the fishing tournaments are real, and so is the fact that locals lock up early once the sun drops behind the river. Number 6. Lake City. Calls itself the gateway to Florida and sits right on the I-75 drug corridor, connecting South Florida to the rest of the Southeast. The combined crime rate gives residents about a 1 in 19 chance of becoming a victim. And this small North Florida town has seen a mass shooting at a public park, and in one of the stranger crime blotter entries in the state, a shooting inside an Arby's. During the day, it's springs and small-town charm. After dark, locals skip the gas stations and take the long way home. Number 5. Fort Pierce. The Sunrise City with a historic marina and a violent crime rate, roughly 47% above the national average. This town is still carrying the weight of a mass shooting at a public park celebration a few years back, one that turned a community gathering into a crime scene and claimed a young mother's life in front of her child. Police have since installed surveillance cameras across the parks hit hardest and banned certain event promoters outright. The beaches and marina are genuinely beautiful. The parks, especially once the sun sets, are where the city is still fighting to prove things have changed. We're in the Final Four now, and if the pattern's held, you already know these get worse before they get better. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the moment, because this channel doesn't stop at Florida. Number 4. Riviera Beach. Stand on the waterfront here and you can see Palm Beach's yacht clubs directly across the Intracoastal. You just can't afford to get there. Riviera Beach has held one of the highest per capita murder rates in Florida for years, roughly 7 times the national average, and a 2025 shooting at an apartment complex left 2 people dead and 4 wounded. Singer Island, the wealthy stretch technically inside city limits, skews the numbers and lives an entirely different reality than the neighborhoods near Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, where the rule after sunset is simple: get where you're going before the streetlights are the only light left. Number 3. Belle Glade. Muck City, built on some of the richest farmland in the country, has produced more NFL players per capita than almost anywhere in America. It's also carried at different points the highest AIDS infection rate in the country and one of the highest violent crime rates in Florida, with an estimate a few years back that half of the young men here between 18 and 25 had a felony conviction. Half. The football legacy is real and it's a genuine point of pride. So is the fact that residents plan their evenings around getting home before dark, because everyone here already knows exactly which streets change character once the sun goes down. Number 2. Pahokee. 3 miles down the road from Belle Glade, smaller, poorer, and by the numbers, even more dangerous. In 2019, Pahokee posted the highest murder rate of any municipality in the entire state of Florida, out of a population of about 5,500 people. The poverty rate runs close to 40%. A few miles further down a dirt road through the sugarcane sits a separate, isolated community built almost entirely from Florida's strict housing restrictions on registered offenders, a place most people in the state have never heard of and will never see. Pahokee's downtown empties out well before sunset, and nobody who lives here needs to be told why. Number 1. Florida City. The last town before the 18-mile stretch to Key Largo, and the gas stop millions of tourists make every year without knowing anything about where they've stopped. Florida City's violent crime rate has been measured as high as 6 times the national average, and the odds of becoming a crime victim here run close to 1 in 9. It's been called one of the carjacking capitals of America, and the poverty rate sits above 30%. The outlet mall and the alligator statue out front of the gas station give away nothing. But ask anyone who actually lives here and you'll get the same 3 words every time. Get gas, leave. Not after dinner, not after the sunset photos. Before dark, every time, no exceptions. 14 towns, one thread running through every single one of them. Ask a local what time they need to be off the street, and they'll answer without even thinking about it. That's not paranoia, that's local knowledge passed down because it keeps people alive. Florida sells sunshine and theme parks and beach sunsets. It rarely mentions what happens in these same towns once that sunset is actually over. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, there's a whole series like it on this channel, covering the parts of America the postcards leave out. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you there.